And I mean, this has been the theme of this conference, Crafting Delight, Delivering Value. And my first question to the panel is, what does Crafting Delight translate to in your area of work? Who wants to go first?
Well, I can talk about healthcare, which is the healthcare experience design that I have been doing for the last 3 years. And so often, unfortunately, it's about removing despair, removing pain. So I think I talked in my presentation about how healthcare pretty much sucks. If we can make it suck less, that is a form of delight.
I find that very interesting because that's also something Carolina shared yesterday. It's more about helping than delighting our users. Any other thoughts on that?
So I think it's very similar in the space of accessibility, because accessibility is about removing barriers, and for people that face barriers, there's a huge amount of frustration that goes with that. So for them, it's not about being delighted, it's just about being able to do what they expect and what they want to be able to do. So accessibility just, helps you make more usable, better things. So,
So I think for us it means giving designers the space to pay attention to detail, to have deep conversations with each other and with people that they're designing for, giving designers really the room to do their work without too much pressure. And I think that really results in delightful sort of design output that is really of high quality. So creating that sort of environment is key to what I do.
Well, yeah, so at Zalando, I guess like the delight is the main focus right now. So, I mean, we always had this delight of like, okay, yes, I've gotten this package, it all worked out, like this kind of seamless thing that we're talking about. But we see that we've solved the problem of fashion very well for a certain group of customers, and for customers who want more inspiration and want to come to Zalando, not just maybe as a buying experience, but as an inspirational experience. That's a focus for building out all kinds of systems that we're working on right now.
Okay, in Accenture, design thinking is actually our consulting model, and I'm very happy to be part of the proposal team. So crafting delight for us is actually, we co-create with our clients with design thinking workshops. So that's really helping me as a designer as well, that we are not doing waterfall process, but also there's room for everybody to say something during this process. So that's really the crafting delight. Yeah.
It's all about sharing. So we have 2 mics for 6 people. Let me move to the second question. I mean, we were talking about crafting delight and delivering value, and that also means balancing different perspectives. So balancing user needs and business objectives. And I would be interested in how you tackle that challenge in your daily job. Or maybe give also an example where this has been really a challenging situation for you.
So I just flew in from Dublin this morning. I was at a strategy offsite working on our plans for next year with the information team in Dublin. And one thing that the team is talking about there. So we have various things that we're measuring, right? And so a lot of them are around joy of use and ease of use and inspiration and advice and these kinds of things. And so basically, I mean, the underlying philosophy is if you improve the customer experience, then you're going to improve the business, right? So this is kind of just taken for granted. It's not such a argument that we have to win at this point. But one thing that I found really interesting is one of the teams, when figuring out how to measure relevance, they're decoupling it from the business relevance, right? So they're saying, how can we measure relevance for the customer? So instead of measuring how well a feature performs based on customer lifetime value or traditional metrics like this, they came up with something I think is actually quite brilliant. It's a very simple measure that's kind of, at its essence, something that would be something more like customer engagement value or something. It's like a very simple metric that can translate like customer lifetime value into how well customers are engaging. So they've consciously said this is not our mission in terms of relevance. So we've kind of delegated different people to take care of like the business relevance and other people to take care of the customer relevance, and they're working in tandem together. I think it's a good thing.
This is the question I always ask as a designer: is the stuff is going to be tested? You know, it's going to be tested with users. So I was afraid of that, but thank goodness we practice, or we actually use a lot of iteration processes with a team of business people, designers, and programmers together whenever we in our project. So I'm actually lucky to also be in this kind of situation, and without user testing, it doesn't work. So it's just across the board. Yeah, that's all.
Frankie, you can take mine.
Thank you. So I want to reframe this question. How do you protect user needs from business objectives? And you protect them with storytelling. It is not enough to do good work. You have to be able to talk about your work, to tell the story of the value it's creating in such a way that your user understands you and your decision maker can tell that story him or herself when you're not there anymore.
That's also a question that I'd like to invite the audience to put out their thoughts and comments. Thank you. We have the box. Any comments, any follow-ups on this question? Also, how you protect user needs.
Yeah, this is a question I can't answer, and no one will in this room, but actually I'm thinking about it. How can we create services? I mean, we have everything in Europe. We have basically everything, and that's why our economic growth stops, let's say it, and doesn't really, it will not grow any much further. And that's why Asia grows, because they don't have our living standard, and we make profit out of it. And someday they will reach the same level as we, but maybe our world won't exist anymore as it is. The species going back to 60% right now on all countries, everywhere. And so I'm asking myself, how can we continue living? It's a really big question. What services do we need to protect our very planet? I mean, how can we continue creating services working for fashion, automotive? I'm working in automotive. I cannot say I'm any better than working in fashion, seriously. And how can we do anything about it? I know it's a really difficult, hard one. I mean, that's why it's so good to work like in hospitals and government services. There we can really create something for good. And is it possible to work for the industry anymore and be a good human being? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, it's a hard one.
I mean, that brings in the question of ethics as a design community. Working for the public sector or we heard it, but I mean, even Jay, you were sharing, your mission is good for all.
Yeah, so I think, I don't remember the exact quote, but Thich Nhat Hanh said something about this, like when people ask him about, okay, I'm working in this environment that is not necessarily right livelihood in the Buddhist terms, right? So he's a Zen Buddhist monk and teacher, and I think you can do a lot of good by working in industries where work needs to be done. So I think it's a matter of degrees, right? Like figuring out like your own personal level of how much can you engage in a particular industry where you feel that there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, I would say something similar. I think it's very easy to feel really good going to work for TfL every day. And we have lots of people who work there exactly for that reason. But I think it's possibly worth doing the opposite. So really coming up with new business models and understanding how you can change businesses that currently are not necessarily contributing to the public good. And I think that's really where the work is needed. So you may be the only one first. It may just be you and someone else, but that's where really the change will be significant. Whereas if you worked for public sector organizations, there are hundreds and thousands of very passionate people doing that.
I see a question over there.
Yeah, so my question would be, who would consider him or herself as the advocate for the user needs?
So the question was, who considers him or herself as an advocate?
As the advocate for the user or the user needs? It's a maybe as it might be already a little bit longer in the IA or UX community, like 10 or 15 years ago, we were talking a lot about being the advocate for the user and taking a stand. And this would need not only seeking for tools and labels or KPIs or whatever, but it's also like basically giving a voice within a company or an agency, within a project for someone who is not present and can take a stand. There's a lot more to that than, of course. But it's like, I find it still an interesting point to think about that.
Thank you.
I was wondering.
Jay?
I'm sorry. I was wondering if it was a trick question because it seems like, the great experiences are when the user advocacy comes from an engineer, or comes from a product manager, or comes from an executive, right? And I think once you reach a certain level of maturity, then you don't necessarily need to be the user advocate anymore. Because everyone is advocating for the customers are the ones driving the revenue. So the customers are driving the business. I think there are companies where it's not really so much of an issue anymore that you have to be the user advocate. Maybe then you have to work on, designing certain other processes better and so forth.
Jay, I disagree. I think the trend is the opposite. At least in the United States, service design and experience design are so new, and it's much more common for the company to figure out a way to lock you into their crappy service than it is for them to think, oh, we will lose the customer if we do not provide a good service.
On that?
I'm actually have to do some promotion about Accenture because they actually introduced a design thinking model for every single employee. It means that they also introduce empathy and across the board, like it's really a requirement to know design thinking if you work in Accenture, and I think it's just amazing. I think Fjord was the one that was the catalyst to make this consulting model in Accenture. So I'm just happy to be part of this. It's a requirement, and I so agree on having this design thinking mindset. It's just not a process. So across everything that we do, that's fantastic.
So this conversation could be ongoing, and we will have a break after. Melanie, one more comment.
Yeah, I wonder the customer value, because if I look at the German governmental system, if you have to renew your passport or if you move, it's just painful. It's so painful, but since you're dependent on it, if you want to travel, you need a passport. You go through this super painful experience. So often, in the UK it's luckily better, but often in German governmental institution, they don't have the need to focus on the user at the end. So what do you do if they will survive no matter if they satisfy the customer need or not? Do you have any suggestions there?
Can I do mine? Complain a lot, really.
I do.
It's interesting because I think it will really change. So really do it. Send emails. Make a big fuss. Because it really matters. Go on Twitter, talk about it. And it's interesting because I can just tell you, definitely for Transport for London, this is the #1 tool. We do look at this. We look at our reputation. We do look at how people respond to certain things that we're doing on social media and across the board. And we really are under a lot of pressure, at least in the UK, in the transport system, to make sure that because it's such a dependable relationship, it's not a relationship that people can choose. But because of that, it's really important that it's a reciprocal relationship. Because it's that balance. And the way that it works really is through complaints. So please, guys, put a lot of pressure on your government. Yeah, you're here, you can do it, it's fine.
I like this. This is a
another
big scope outlook, yeah. Frankie?
Another thought about complaining is it does not have to be so negative as when some people that we know complain and we think, I don't want to talk to them anymore, I won't spend time with them. You may have seen the video, United Breaks Guitars. What a wonderful, delightful, creative way to put pressure on that company. If you haven't, you should look for it. United, the airline, breaks guitars. Made a huge change for them for how they handled their customer luggage.
So some inspiration there. I really don't want to cut this short, but I mean, we have time to mingle more. It's also the idea that this conversation doesn't end here. I want you to take a last question to reflect on your biggest personal takeaway from the last 2 days and share give you a few seconds to gather your thoughts. Who wants to go first? Hesitation. I mean, this is also a question for the audience.
We should dance more.
Alistair?
I haven't been here for the whole conference. My biggest takeaway is that Berlin is an amazing city, and yeah.
Yeah, I have such great gratitude to the organizers and to the volunteers for anticipating so many details. The one that comes to mind is the food that you get when you're in line to get food. What a wonderful thought.
This was not the intention of this question. It was really like, what? Maybe some thoughts or something that maybe someone you met in that direction. But I would like to also ask the audience, any thoughts on that? What's your biggest takeaway?
Who? Raise your hand.
Or we need to do more dancing to shake you up a little bit.
I just wrote down work in progress. That was my main takeaway. We're all working in our own ways, in our own fields, asking the same questions to ourselves, posing it to others, and I hope that continues. I hope we can be a community that supports each other.
Sharing is caring, again, yeah.
Can I?
Just super shortly, I want to say that I really appreciate the diversity that this conference has. In many ways, I think it's a really interesting point that we can make as designers, that we can also bring more diversity, also in the sense of the volunteers and the role we have and the space we have. So thank you.
This is... Any last thoughts? Yeah? Hanna?
I did want to announce one thing, and now it's really embarrassing because I forgot her name, but she's somewhere. She can stand up. We just... yeah, there you are. Excellent. What's your name? Christine. Okay, so Christine did a tiny workshop. She found 2 people, me and some other person whose name I forgot. Oh, Lily. Lily, yes. Lily, can you stand up? Are you standing? Is she gone? Is she there? There she is. Yeah. So just really quick, because you are a great community, and it's been really amazing to be here because you're all really open and lovely. And so we started, thanks to Christine and Lily, we started an ad hoc book club, a service design book club on WhatsApp, where the first session is going to be on Monday, 9 p.m. London time, so that's 10 p.m. So this makes enough time for all of you to bring your kids to bed, yeah? Then you can lie in your pajamas, in your bed next to your kids, turn on WhatsApp, make sure we've got your number. So Christine needs your number. Katrin, yeah, Christine, not sure how you find her, but talk to her if you want to be part of this. Okay, there's a post already. It's already spreading across the service design network. And what we're going to do on Monday at 9 p.m. London time, so 10 p.m. Berlin time, we still have to design the time zone checker for you, but that'll come over time. You can go onto WhatsApp if you have your number. We will add you, Christine will add you to the WhatsApp group, and then I will kick this off. I will read to you from a book for 20 minutes. And I will choose the book. And then next Monday, someone else will have to read. And that will be first Lily, because we've decided it's just going to be the 2 of us first, just to make it happen. But then over time, chip in, feel free to join us, and we'll do this just every Monday, and see where it goes. And that's what I loved. It's that rapid prototyping of services, just ad hoc, really. Yeah?
And it's also a great example of how to follow up on 2 days of great discussions. You found a book club.
There's one more.
One more.
Something that was really cool today is we had like 3 sessions on the same topic. So we combined it and had one session, then had about 30 minutes to pull it together and run it. And it was a really great discussion. So a takeaway from that for me is about how you can do that rapidly and quickly and not worry about it being perfect and just go with it and make it work.
Also makes me remember on one of the pitches where they said, oh, we are competitors, but we...
That's us,
yeah.
I think. We combined it on the spot and it worked.
Clive?
Yeah. My takeaway is I'm really going to miss the Service Experience Camp because it's so different and such a wonderful thing. So, no pressure on you.
That is actually a good closing note. I would like to invite my fellow organizers to the stage to wrap it up. Thank you, guys, for taking the stage.